Hello, this is Mike Van Meter. Welcome to the Recovery is Possible Hope and Healing with Mike and Lily podcast. We want to thank you for joining us. You can reach us at our Facebook site, which is also called Recovery is Possible, or our website, which is vanmeterwellnesssolutions.com. This podcast exists to educate the public about addiction, remove the stigma associated with addiction, and offer help and support for those suffering from addiction. Hello, everybody. This is Recovery is Possible with Mike and Lily. And Lily's not here tonight, but I am, and we want to talk about some things that I've been thinking about lately, particularly as we head into the holiday season. And we're about a week and a half here away from Christmas in 2025. And I get a lot of questions about, hey, how do you get through the holidays sober? And, I'm going to just share with you a little bit about what I talk about with the patients at the hospital. And that is, really putting your finger on what it is that you're experiencing, why you're in the hospital, why we're here, why we're in recovery, why we're always in recovery. We're never recovered from recovery. It's an ongoing process. And by the way, if you ever hear someone say to you that they are a recovered drug addict, a recovered alcoholic, you know this. They don't know what they're talking about. We are not recovered as in past tense. We are recovering in the present tense. And one of the things I share with the patients is this, that the disease of addiction is just that. It's a disease. It's a disease of the mind and the body. The mind and the body. It's both. People always say, is there a genetic predisposition, or is it something that's in your behavior? Is it your environment? Is it because you had friends or family that used? And the answer is yes to all of that. What you have is the disease of addiction, mind and body. And I want to talk about the concept of naming it to taming it. And the reason why I want to have this episode titled that way is Name It to Tame It, is if we can put a name on something, if we can put a name on a problem, then we can find a solution to tame that problem. And addiction is like that. So addiction is not a moral issue. Really what you're seeing when you talk about it being a moral issue is the behaviors, the outgrowth from addiction, the destroyed families, the DUIs, the family violence, the all kinds of violence, all kinds of behaviors that are outgrowths of the disease itself. And the problem is we get folks fixated on the actual behavior and not what caused the behavior in the first place. Now, when I talk to the patients, I let them know that, look, you're in a hospital, and that should be a clue as to what's going on with you. You're in a hospital because you're there to medically treat what is going on with you, and that it is a disease. It's in the DSM-5, Diagnostics and Statistics Manual, 5th edition. It's in there. And I'm going to share with you the definition of the disease and how addiction is classified as a disease. But before I do that, let me first address this idea that we're rolling into the holiday season. Actually, we're already in the holiday season. Thanksgiving has already passed, and now we're going into Christmas, and now after that, then we're going to have New Year's. And this is a difficult time for people that are in recovery, particularly early recovery. And I'm going to talk about why that is. But I'm going to just share with you just a little story. And that was when I came out of treatment, the treatment center I went to actually had a really good alumni group. And they would have guest speakers all over the place that would come and talk about addiction topics. And the first year I was in recovery, I went, and there was a man that was there, and he spoke on getting through the holidays sober, And he talked about a lot of things. He talked about the science behind it, what's going on with the brain. But he presented a concept that, when you think about it, is profoundly simple, but it's profound at the same time. And it's something that people that struggle with addiction don't really think about. The neat thing about recovery is this, that it's profoundly complex and profoundly simple all at the same time. And the more that you work towards keeping it simple, the easier it is to deal with. And his concept was this, as you roll into the holiday season, people say, oh my gosh, I can't get through the holidays. I've got family coming in and I can't stand them. I can't stand my in-laws. I can't stand my wife. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of money going out the door. There's, you name it. And then every event seemingly that you go to has alcohol involved or drugs, if that's something that you struggle with. And the football season's going on, and every time you turn on a game, there's alcohol everywhere, and these things are true. All right, these things are true. But what the guest speaker talked about was this. Really, when you think about other times during the year, you face pressures too. 4th of July, New Year's Day. And you think about when your kids are in spring break, or there's vacation, or you do have family members that come over to visit, maybe during summer vacations, things like that. You have these stresses. And really, when you're at work and you're engaging people in your life, maybe you have a death in your family, maybe you have some sort of tragedy that occurs, or just the daily work grind going on. This happens. And what his point is that really, when you think about it, addiction is about the body primarily, that physical addiction. And when you come into detox, like where I work, we're detoxing your body because your body has become physically dependent on that substance that brought you in, physically dependent on it. And so we have to detox your body from that substance that brought you in. And you may go on to inpatient residential treatment, or you may go to intensive outpatient, partial hospitalization, a sober living home, whatever your path is. But you are then detoxified, and your body really is not dependent upon that substance anymore. The battle at that point is up here in your mind. That's where the battle is. And that's what we have to work on. And when you think of recovery programs, and by a program of recovery, I mean your traditional 12-step programs or any other program that you may follow, when you really think about those programs are helping you deal with life and dealing with life on life's terms. That's what it is. You just take the traditional 12 steps. Step 1, I'm powerless over alcohol. My life's unmanageable. You can place it with drugs or gambling or sex, whatever. You're powerless over that, and your life has become unmanageable. The other 11 steps never mention that substance again. Never again. It's only mentioned in that first step. The rest of the steps are talking about how you deal with life on life's terms and maintain what we call emotional sobriety. Some people refer to it as spiritual fitness. And that's what we got to work on. So as you roll into the holidays, that's really what we're working on, because if you think about it, your body doesn't know what day of the week it is or what time of year it is. Think about that for a moment. Does your body physiologically know the difference between June 2nd and December 25th, or August 12th and January 1st? No, it doesn't. You do, in your mind. And your mind gets you worked up. Your mind gets you into a frenzy. Your mind has you catastrophize. Your mind is thinking ahead to things and situations and conversations that haven't happened yet. And we call that catastrophizing. Your mind. And your mind is what is going to take you back out. And so what my friend at this alumni group said, his point was, you really have to double down and work on your emotional regulation during those times of stress. And you do that by being at a fellowship. You do that by working with other people, by being in groups, by going to meetings, by calling other people that you know that are struggling with addiction, by sponsoring other people, by being in a service position. The list is endless, and getting involved, but getting out of your own head. And that's part of why we are involved in service so heavily in recovery, is because by doing that, by helping other people, then we tend to think less about our own situation. But back to the topic at hand here, name it to tame it. I just said addiction is a disease, but let's kind of explore that a little bit. And I hate to do some reading for you, but it's important to do that because I want you to hear how this is classified, and then sort of break that down and relate it to how, or to what I just described to you. Okay, so bear with me on this, but it's very, very important. If you're struggling with recovery and you're stuck, or you have a loved one that's struggling, it's vital that you understand this. Addiction is classified as a chronic brain disease due to its profound effects on brain structure and function, leading to compulsive substance use despite harmful consequences. So it negatively impacts the brain, and it's chronic, meaning that it doesn't go away. It does not ever go away. Hence, remember always telling you that you're always in recovery. You're not recovered. All right, so the core definition, major medical organizations, including the American Medical Association and American Society of Addiction Medicine, define addiction as a primary chronic disease of brain reward, motivation, memory, and related circuitry. It shares traits with other chronic illnesses like diabetes or heart disease, involving a mix of genetic, biological, environmental, and psychological factors. Remember, I talked about that. It's yes to all of those things. With genes, listen to this, accounting for about half of the risk. So you're genetically disposed, genetically uploaded. Unlike simple choices, progression hijacks dopamine pathways, creating tolerance, dependence, and loss of control. So let's talk a bit about the brain, the changes that occur in the brain. So substances overload the brain's reward system, flooding it with dopamine far beyond natural rewards like food or exercise, which reinforces drug-seeking behavior. Over time, this alters circuits for stress, self-control, and memory, making cues like stress or environments trigger intense cravings even after abstinence. So what that means is when we get triggered by those life events, the tragedies, the people that you don't like, problems at work, etc., it's actually enhanced for the addict, even after you stop using. So these neuroadaptations persist long-term, explaining high relapse rates and why willpower alone fails. So it's important to understand that we are altered. There's that genetic preloading, that genetic predisposition. But then once you are physically addicted, physiologically addicted, that there's neural pathways in your brain that have changed, and you're not changing them back. You just have to adapt your lifestyle, hence the program of recovery. So let's discuss why this disease model matters. So viewing addiction as a disease reduces stigma. That's important. Promotes evidence-based treatments like therapy and medication, meaning you need that, and improves access to care, countering outdated moral failure narratives. While initial use involves choice influenced by trauma or environment, we talked about that, full addiction reflects biological hijacking, not weakness. Recovery requires ongoing management similar to other chronic conditions. So you've heard me talk about that on this podcast over and over and over again, that this is a disease. And it must be treated like any other disease. You know, I often share the story about how in the unit that I work in, we have people that come in over and over and over. I mean, we do have some people that have been in treatment over 60 times. And when I talk to them about this, and I say, do you believe that you have a disease? They kind of half-heartedly say, yeah, it's a disease. But then I ask myself, but do you really believe that? And many of them will say, well, you know, I messed up, that I screwed up. And when you say things like that, what you're telling me is you're not believing that this is a disease of the brain. When you say I screwed up or I messed up, what you're saying is that somehow was tied to your behavior, your moral compass as a person. And what we're telling you is it has nothing to do with your moral compass, and it has everything to do with your biology and physiology and genetics. Now, I will say that there is a part of your behavior that plays a role in this. It does play a role in it, but it's not in the way that people think. It's not that you screwed up or you're a bad person. It's that you have not absorbed this fundamental aspect to this, and that is that you cannot safely drink or drug, period. No mood-altering substances can go into your body safely, and that's a critical part of recovery. You must embrace that. You must put that in your soul. You must put that in your heart and understand that everything that you do in recovery, whatever program you choose to do, and that's up to you, whether it's AA, NA, GA, OA, SA, Celebrate Recovery, Dharma, whatever program you want to be in, that's fine because that's going to help you emotionally regulate. But at the core of all that is you must understand that this is a disease and that you cannot safely use mood-altering substances, to include marijuana, by the way, safely. And until that is embraced, you're going to keep relapsing. But the fact is, most people really don't want to give up their substance of choice. They really don't. I know I didn't. Nobody wants to be in recovery. What you really want, if you're honest with yourself, is that you want to be able to continue to use that substance without the consequences that go along with using that substance. And that, my friend, isn't going to happen. And oh, by the way, addiction is primary, chronic, progressive, and deadly. Primary, chronic, progressive, and deadly. It gets worse over a period of time. It never gets better. There are no exceptions. And you, my friend, will not be the first exception to that. And I can tell you that in my own life, when I started realizing what I just said there, my life started getting a whole lot better. It is not going to go away. And in fact, if you're honest with yourself, your drinking or drugging is much worse now than it was when you started. That shows that progression that we were talking about. We put this disease in remission. And the way that we put it in remission is we don't use. And that's a lifelong thing. Now remember, we don't think about recovery as being lifelong in our mind. We think about it in 24-hour increments. And if you're in early recovery, I mean like a year or less, you might even want to break it down to even smaller increments than that. An hour, a minute maybe, 2 hours. Maybe you're going to go from breakfast to lunch without drinking or drugging. Maybe you're going to go from lunch to dinner to bedtime. But however you need to break that down, that's what you have to do, because this is not going to go away. Now, the nice thing is that once you get into long-term recovery, and the medical definition of long-term recovery is 5 years, but the post-acute withdrawal syndrome is pretty much resolved in 1.5 to 2 years, depending on how well you take care of yourself, assuming that you stay abstinent, and your diet. And if you do those things right, you can minimize or shorten that length that you're involved in the post-acute withdrawal process. But either way, it's going to go away in about 1.5 to 2 years. And then after that, it becomes easier and easier and easier to not have that urge, or not fight the urge to want to use. I mean, anybody that's in recovery, to include myself, you have those moments where you just think, man, wouldn't it be nice to have a drink or a drug, whatever the case may be. But they're fleeting. And because you developed your program of recovery, you're able to find it easier to be successful in dealing with those issues. So, my friends, name it. The disease. You name it. It's a disease. I just laid out for you how the scientific world looks at it. And these ideas that you messed up, that you're a bad person, that you're someone that screwed up, do away with those notions. You didn't screw up. It is not doing what you need to do. And I've shared this with you before, and I'll share it with you again. The funny thing is that most of the patients that come into our unit at the hospital that have been there many, many times, when I ask them what it is that they need to do to get sober, the fact is the vast majority, if not all of them, can name the elements of what they need to do. They can name the things that we discuss on this podcast. So why are they relapsing? Because they're not doing what they know what they need to do. Not drinking or drugging is an integral part of a program of recovery. I know that sounds silly and it sounds stupid, but it's true. You can do whatever you want. I hear people say this. I go to 12-step meetings and they don't work for me. Well, no, you still put substances in your body. That's an integral part of a 12-step program. It starts with that. So, my friends, name it to tame it. And as we roll into this holiday season, I just wish all of you the best of the season. I pray that you enjoy it. I pray that you can stay sober. And I want to thank all of you for joining us here, because I know that this is valuable time that you could be doing something else. And I feel honored to be able to talk to you about this very, very important issue. And I want to welcome you to the family, because I look at all of you as being family. And all of us are doing what we can to go out and help our fellow travelers live a happy, well, and joyous life, and be of service to other people so they can live a good life as well. So thanks to all of you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Take care. So as I always like to say, I do not represent any group, do not represent anyone other than myself. My only purpose in giving this information is to share with you what I've done, because it's helped me and maybe it will help you too. If I've said something that does not apply to you or you don't agree with, then just discard it. But try to take any information that you can use for yourself and help others as well. That's what we do in recovery. We help ourselves along the way, and we hope to impart the knowledge we have gained to others as well. With that, please visit our Facebook page, Recovery is Possible, and our website, VanMeterWellnessSolutions.com. Let us know how we're doing, and let us know if there's any topic that you're interested in hearing about. We'd love to hear from you, and take care, and we'll see you next time.